"Uncle, save me!" The desperate scream echoed through the dark halls of Saturday Manor, but no one has lived to tell what happened next, until now. 2 weeks ago, Horror Channel writer Sarah Miller made a chilling discovery in Boston's most haunted colonial mansion, one that would force her to question everything she knew about the supernatural. But the real story? It begins with a single phone call that changed everything. In her Manhattan office, channel director James Chen stared at the plummeting viewership numbers on his screen. Their horror content wasn't just failing, it was driving viewers away. What he didn't know was that his next decision would uncover a 200-year-old murder mystery that had been waiting in the shadows of Saturday Manor, a place where even the bravest tourists never stay past sunset. "We need something real," James told Sarah over the phone. "Something that will make people believe." He couldn't have known that his words would send Sarah and her colleague Rachel into the darkest corners of American colonial history, where they would discover that some stories are better left untold. But what happened that night in Saturday Manor? The security cameras caught something impossible. The local historians refused to talk about it. And Rachel hasn't spoken a word since they found her unconscious in that secret room. In her office cabin in New York, James was reviewing the progress of his horror channel. While the progress was generally good, viewership had slightly declined compared to competitors. Concerned, he called his channel's story writer Sarah. In her office cabin in New York, James was reviewing the progress of his horror channel. While the progress was generally good, viewership had slightly declined compared to competitors. Concerned, he called his channel's story writer Sarah. "Sarah, while the stories are great, the views are declining a bit. We need to think of something new." "You're right. I'll try to improve from my end. Why don't you check with others for suggestions?" "I did speak with them. Everyone suggests we need more dialogue-based stories rather than narration." "Have you heard about Saturday Manor in Boston? Write a story about that. I've heard some things, but don't know much. You should search online about its history, or better yet, visit Saturday Manor yourself. Meet people there. I want a real story, not fiction." "I'll plan something for Saturday Manor. It's a full moon this Saturday. They say visiting isn't allowed on full moon nights." After talking with James, Sarah began preparing for her story. First, she researched Saturday Manor online. The manor was built by colonial governor William Ross. He was a military commander under the British Crown. After gathering more information online, Sarah left for Boston with her colleague Rachel. "Sarah, I heard the manor was under Ross family control for 85 years before the government took over," Rachel said. "Yes, that's right. Do you think there really is a ghost there?" According to online sources, it's the ghost of 18-year-old Nathan Ross, who calls for help every full moon. Many people claim to have heard his voice. Full moon, that's tonight. If what people say is true, we might actually encounter Nathan Ross's ghost. Ghost or not, the mansion definitely holds many secrets. Many people have heard Nathan's last words. Last words? In the power struggle for succession, Nathan was murdered through treachery. He was calling out to his uncle for help. His last words were, "Uncle, save me." They say people still hear Nathan's voice on full moon nights. So Nathan's spirit is restless because of the betrayal? Yes, and there's another story about this mansion. In 1828, a terrible fire broke out that burned for 7 days. A large part of the mansion was affected, but to this day, no one knows how the fire started. Saturday Manor sounds even more mysterious than I'd heard. We'll find out more when we get there. As they approached, both were amazed that the mansion's beauty remained intact. The craftsmanship of the colonial builders was still evident in every detail. "It's still so beautiful after all these years," Sarah remarked. "Rachel, keep your camera ready. We'll take some interviews and record the whole mansion for the blog. And remember one thing, we need to leave before dark." The two women entered Saturday Manor. While Rachel was recording the mansion, Sarah was interviewing people and taking notes in her diary. Rachel, while recording, wandered into the old section of the mansion that had been partially destroyed by the fire. There, she noticed a shadow. As if in a trance, Rachel followed the shadow while recording. No one else was there at the time. Suddenly, she felt a burning hot hand on her shoulder. She turned around screaming, only to find Sarah standing there. "What are you doing here alone? What happened?" There, look there. Someone was just here." "Rachel, it was probably just a tourist. But don't wander alone. Let's gather whatever information we can and leave quickly. It's a big mansion and it'll take time to explore. So no negative thoughts, okay? And stay close to me. We're safer together." Rachel began taking photos again. Suddenly, through her camera, she saw fresh bloodstains on a wall. Blood was dripping. When she lowered the camera to look directly at the wall, there were no stains. Rachel thought it might be her imagination, but she quickly moved closer to Sarah. Sarah was talking to someone when Rachel saw a colonial soldier standing behind Sarah. He was staring at Rachel with red eyes. Frightened, Rachel began backing away until she bumped into a wall. The wall was actually a door to a secret room, and Rachel fell inside. The room was completely dark, and she couldn't see any way out. She began calling for Sarah. "Sarah, where are you? Please help me! Sarah!" After a while, Sarah noticed Rachel was missing. She tried calling her phone, but it wasn't reachable. "Where did Rachel go? Her phone isn't working, and it's getting dark. We need to leave soon. Rachel, where are you? Please stop joking." Sarah was sweating with fear. Tourists were now leaving the mansion, with security guards ushering out the remaining few. "Ma'am, please head outside. It's closing time. Everyone needs to leave," a guard said. "My colleague is missing. Please help me find her." "She must have left with the other tourists. You'll find her outside. Please evacuate now," the guard said before moving on to clear other areas. "Rachel wouldn't leave without telling me. She must be somewhere in this mansion. I have to find her." Meanwhile, Rachel was trying to find her way out of the dark room. She stumbled into another room where she saw a young man about 18 years old, dressed in colonial clothing. Next to him stood an elderly man, Uncle Robert. "Uncle, they've made me governor at such a young age," Nathan said. "I'm not ready to handle the governance yet." "Nathan, time will tell how capable you are," Robert replied. "There's an important assembly called for tonight. Get ready for it." At Robert's word, Nathan began preparing for the assembly. Suddenly, several soldiers burst into his room and attacked him. "Uncle, save me!" Nathan cried out. "Yes, Nathan, I'm coming," Robert said as he stepped forward. But instead of helping, he pulled out a dagger and plunged it into Nathan's stomach. "After your brother's death, the governorship should have come to me, but it went to his young son instead," Robert said. "But now there's no heir left. From today, I am the governor of this colony." Nathan, writhing in pain, managed to speak his final words. "You killed me for this mansion, for this power. But after me, no one shall ever sit peacefully on this throne." With these words, Nathan Ross died. The full moon night is repeating all of history, Rachel thought, trembling. Then she felt a hand on her shoulder. Thinking it was Sarah, she started to speak. "Sarah, did you see what just happened? But as she turned, she saw Nathan Ross standing there. "I told you no one could stay in this mansion," he said. "But now you know the whole truth. You must tell everyone what really happened here." With these words, Nathan vanished. Outside the mansion, Sarah was waiting for dawn so she could search for Rachel. Despite security's repeated refusals in the morning, Sarah searched the entire mansion for Rachel. She finally found Rachel unconscious in the last corner of the mansion. "Thank God you're safe, Rachel. I was so worried," Sarah said, trying to bring Rachel back to consciousness. When Rachel regained consciousness, fear was clearly visible on her face. "Rachel, where did you suddenly disappear to? I spent the whole night standing outside Saturday Manor waiting for you." Rachel told Sarah about her entire experience from the previous night. Hearing this, Sarah was stunned. Based on Rachel's experience, Sarah wrote the complete story, and James created an animated version that became their most successful piece yet. Some say on full moon nights you can still hear Nathan's voice echoing through the halls of Saturday Manor. Rachel has never returned to Boston since that night, and Sarah, well, she's been researching other historical mansions across America. But that's a story for another time. If you've ever experienced something supernatural, share your story in the comments below. We might feature it in our next episode. Our team reads every comment, except the ones that mysteriously disappear at midnight. Winks, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps keep the ghosts away. And if you're brave enough, subscribe to join our midnight crew. Ring that bell to get notified every time we upload a new haunting tale. Stay spooky, and remember, not all historical sites welcome visitors after dark. Some places are better left unexplored. Fade to black with distant echoes of "Uncle, save me."